Hey, it's Alex, and
Tiffanie Lanelle.
get that drink down. I
I know,
gotta. I
right?
have to keep coating my throat. I've got a massive cup of tea, and with about 40 tea bags and 6 lemons. Um,
Not 40 tea bags.
I mean, not anything at this point.
I
Um,
get
uh,
it.
we are actually editors at Black Alerts. Well, it's exactly I said Black Alerts. And that's really important. We do a lot of other things, but we're talking today about um, a movement that has been actually placed into motion as Joe Biden has stepped down or actually removed his bid for the presidency in the 2024 election in the United States. And Kamala Harris has stepped into that position. She's the current vice president. She's been serving with him for the last 4 years. And this announcement was just made on Sunday. So we're coming to you. We're talking about this mostly because we are still, I'm seeing people calling this a sugar high.
Really?
Um,
I
but
mean,
I
I can see that.
also know that a sugar high can last for as long as you keep eating the sugar.
Well, all right, that'll preach.
Okay. That's what I'm just saying because there's so much skepticism and of course, we know that there are things and as people that report news and manage a news publication and have been doing this for quite some time. Um it's very interesting to watch commentary about a people that you don't talk to. And that was my nicest way of saying that because I almost said a people you don't care about.
And we cannot say
People
that.
that you I can't say that. Say that you only care about their ratings, you only care about their clicks, you only care because if you cared about more, you would cover more than the disparity in their communities.
I agree.
And I'm going to touch on that, but another thing that we often talk about, I've talked about on my show, you've talked about on your show, that polls are something that are just a snapshot, and I think
Yeah.
that's one thing we've gotten such heightened in our political climates in this country that the news constantly repeats what they saw in a poll, and they give you a piece of the poll when the poll is also just a piece, right? So after you've got piece and piece, you think you have the full picture, but polls are a snapshot in time. They are a snapshot of a population, and they also have a margin of error.
Yes. And the margin of error seems to be growing with time. Like over the last 5 to 10 years, that margin of error seems to be getting wider. And multiple studies have said that, and even polling organizations, or ABC News, different media organizations have said that that margin, that gap, it has gotten larger and wider over the last
Certainly.
few years.
Well, part of it is because of the intent of the poll. Like, I
Yeah.
think that we've gotten so comfortable with polls and people talking about polls, and this conversation is about polls. So don't you dare. Um, but what we say often is that you can talk for the longest time, and up until this last election with that Joe Biden won in 2020, most of these polls were conducted by pollsters calling landline telephones, which
Yes.
is actually a relic of the past. Now, I had a
Yes.
landline telephone probably till about 2020. I'll be honest with you. Part of that is that part of our media, our company also owned a telephone company at one point.
We
So you
did.
have to
We've been
have
at
your
this
own
for a while.
you have to have your own product, right?
Right.
I haven't had a home phone active. I probably have a line now, but I would never plug it up,
Right.
which also means I would never be polled. And you can poll the
Right.
average American, and they will tell you they've never been polled either.
So I have a question, and you're right, this is not about polling at all. But I do get polls text to me, but I don't think that those polls are feeding into predominantly the polls that we're seeing in the media, and all of that. Those don't count.
Sometimes they
Those
are,
10
but I
well,
would not say like the grand sch in what you're seeing, like
okay,
because there's a science to polling, and
there is.
people are denying the science. That's just what I'm gonna
I
say.
agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly, yes. But
And
this is about the movement. You were
it
talking
is.
about the
And my
movement.
point is, in that movement, there's always movements that our people are a part of
Mhm.
that don't show up in polls. They
True.
don't. They don't. And so before we start talking about this movement, I want to reference a tweet that I saw from Michael Harriot on Sunday, Sunday. And in the tweet, did I share this tweet with you, Tiff?
No.
We'll definitely put it in the article because I think everyone should see this because to understand, and I may have told you that when I told you about this is not going to show up in polls
Right.
because this kind of stuff
Now I
does not
do.
show up in polls. He said
Yes.
I just spent 23 minutes teaching my aunts how to do a group FaceTime so they can pray for Kamala Harris. Two of them have Android, so they're switching to Zoom.
You did you did tell me about this, yes.
That's
Because
not
I said I
showing
had to
up.
do something similar, and that's not showing up on polls,
It's
no.
not showing up in polling. But the thing is, when he said he was getting his aunties together on a Zoom call so they could pray for Kamala Harris, I want the people in the not even in the back because you people, you black people, even you black people that haven't been to church in 20 years, you have praying aunties and you do. I know you
You
do.
do. You do.
It's embedded in our culture.
Right.
But they don't go see those praying aunties until it's election time.
No.
Presidents, mayors, none of them show up.
No.
This prayer meeting wasn't called by the church. It wasn't called by the campaign. This was a prayer meeting called by the aunties. This
Yes.
man's aunties.
Yes.
Praying aunties don't trust the enemy.
No.
Now, the enemy that they don't trust is no doubt. We heard the auntie on C-SPAN not too long ago saying Lucifer. The the aunties don't trust Lucifer, but anybody can play the part of Lucifer in this case. And
Literally.
I say that to say that if you've called the aunties and attempting to poll them, they hung up.
Yeah. 'Cause baby, what you doing playing on my phone?
Baby, I'm not talking to nobody. Do you know Jesus? Oh,
Mm-mm.
no, you saying you calling from a camp? No, no. Is this from
Mm-mm.
do you know Vice President Harris personally? Because if so, I need to let her know. She needs to know that I'm praying for her. Oh, you don't.
I'm
Oh, you're
praying for
calling
her.
Pola. Pole. You work for who? Oh, no. I liken it to if you need to relate it to another culture. For the sake of this conversation, it's not about y'all. But I will say, not too long ago, maybe a month or I'll give it 6 weeks. Former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, was sitting down with Katie Tur, and she asked her a question. And Nancy ended the interview. She said, I'm not dealing with somebody like you.
Ooh,
She basically called her a tool of the enemy. I would call, is Pelosi Italian? Maybe so. I would call that an Italian anti
yeah.
response. So that said, we are talking about this movement that happened. We got Joe Biden released a letter on Sunday. People were asking why Joe didn't come out and make this statement from the Resolute desk or like, come on, guys. He has COVID.
He's quarantined.
He's quarantined. What he needs to come out and tell you something that you can read.
Right. Now he's speaking to us today, right?
He is.
Yeah.
He is. We're gonna hear
I
from him today. Hopefully, he doesn't need a mask on his way into wherever he's gonna have that conversation.
He'll be in the Oval Office, I believe.
I mean, he could give it from the Rose Garden. He can give it from Delaware for all I care. He could be down at Camp David. He could be on an island. I don't care. The man has lived a life that I feel like at 80, I don't want nobody asking me nothing anyway.
I
And that's
mean,
I don't even
Heard.
That's another show, another time. As we talk about this movement, that announcement was made. We'll post the announcement if you haven't seen it. It's it'll be historical, something that you need to read. But what was also historical, which I had heard about a conversation that had been going on for some months. I was not aware. I'm not a woman, so I had just heard about when with black women. Like, what would I have to do with that?
Right.
Heard about it. But on Sunday, something happened, Tiff. How did you hear about this call?
So it started with one of my good friends and accomplices in this work texting me the call information.
What did it say?
It literally had the Zoom information and was like, FYI, you need to be on this call. And I had been on Win with Black Women calls before. Um, they would pop up or, somebody would text it to me or something. And so I've joined a couple before. So I kind of looked down at it and was like, okay, well, we were planning to go live because Biden had dropped out of the race, of course. So you and I were actually planning to go live, and so I said, well, once I get off the live, I'll hop on. Thinking it's just like any of the other Women with Black Women calls, and then I got it 3 more times. I got like 2 more text messages about it, a couple emails. I was like, okay, this is becoming a big thing.
Right.
So I went ahead and was like, I think we postponed our live. We thought we would be able to do it later that evening. I didn't know how long the call was going to be. It originally started with it was just going to be two or three speakers. And we were going to get on and we were going to talk about, the fact that she was being endorsed, that Biden had dropped out and she was being endorsed. And then all of a sudden the Zoom started. It started with 1,000. I didn't make it onto that one and I joined right on time. It had already gotten full. Then they closed it. I got another email that said they were closing that one and opening a new one to increase the capacity. So they did that. I got on that one, and then next thing I know, they were increasing the capacity again. And I think she is the CEO, Aparna at Zoom. Aparna Bawa, she had to work to COO, yeah. She had to uh, work with the engineers to get the capacity for the Zoom we were on increased. And that's how we ended up with the 44,000 number.
And I've heard a number. I was listening to old school some reporting this morning about that number swelling past that um throughout the evening.
Hmm.
I know the final number. Well, continue. So you got that text, you joined, and I started to hear about it. I started to hear uh people like texting, and then I got on social media. I saw that people there was a lot of chatter about this call that's happening. And then when people feel left out, they start to speculate about like what this call could be about. So and then I,
Right.
I started to see some speculation, um, like when with black women. Well, what about women? Um,
You know.
and I just, that's to be expected. So that happened. And you got on the call. What was that experience like? Well, you get on this call, win with black women. What was different about this call and calls that you've been on in the past?
Um, this one was it was way busier and chaotic in a good way. I know that sounds crazy, but you could feel the excitement as folks were trying to get on the call and as they're announcing, we're at 5,000 women on this call. We're at 10,000 women on this call. We're at 18,000 women on this call. We're at 25,000 women on this call. And then it was speaker after speaker after speaker of folks just hopping on. It was supposed to just be Representative Joyce Beatty, Donna Brazile, former DNC chair, and one other person, um, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Those were the three that we knew were supposed to, be joining this call. But then the names just kept popping up. Jennifer Lewis came on. Anna Navarro came on.
So
Just
as people were joining and the
mhm,
excitement was growing, what was some of the things that was fueling the excitement? You had multiple women joining, and as person after the numbers of people on the call, I'm sure that bred excitement. The people, or some of the women that joined the call, prominent women that joined the call, that bred some excitement.
right.
What continued to drive excitement throughout that call?
I will say for me, as a Spelman graduate, the moment that hit me the most, that made me really understand and feel the gravity of the moment that we were in, was hearing Dr. Janetta Besh Cole join. And there was a silence that came upon that call because we were just all I think hearing her words and some of the things she was saying, first of all, Dr. Janetta Besh Cole. Um, and so the fact that she had hopped on, by this time it was very late at night, and we're just listening to her wisdom and listening to her talk about the historic moment that we're in and the work that we need to do. That was the moment that it hit me. No, this really is a historic moment. We absolutely have a lot of work to do. Um, but it made me feel like it's okay to have multiple emotions within, to be both excited and to be concerned of, can we really do this? Well, we just mobilized over 44,000 women on this call and made it so that everybody else wanted to have a call. So, on one hand, as a Black woman, no, I don't want to carry the weight of having to save this country again. And I've seen multiple Black women saying that. I've been asked by non Black people, literally, are y'all going to save us again? I don't want to carry that weight. And also, I was energized by what I sat and watched happening across social media once people understood the gravity of the call that was happening. I think that was what energized me and potentially what energized some others who were on that call.
A more personal question: what was your energy like prior to the call?
That's a good question. My energy prior to the call was one of exhaustion, honestly, because I automatically could not really enjoy the excitement of the moment because I understood what else that moment was going to bring with it. The attacks on Black women, the attacks on Asian American women, the attacks on this woman. And don't get me wrong, I do not and have not agreed with all of the policy decisions of this administration over the last 3 years. And I have my own, contentions with um, different things. And also, a woman is a Black and Asian American woman, HBCU graduate, former prosecutor, Greek affiliated woman, is about to potentially become the next presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. Like, I didn't get to live in that because I remembered all the nicknames that she had gotten while she was just running for vice president. So I knew the vitriol was going to come almost immediately. And I knew that that then put a target on our backs as Black women and minority women doing this work and walking in this country. And so I admittedly lived in that before I could live in the excitement.
Understood. And I'll probably ask you about that more on some other shows because I think there's that has to be explored, and I think that you're probably not alone in the person that felt that way, or as a Black woman that felt that way, or people that feel had a lot of anxiety for one reason or the other. And I
Mhm.
think it's important for us to discuss that. It's also important for us to discuss amongst each other. And it's really important for us to have those conversations, sometimes in safe and secure locations. Every
Right.
conversation isn't for everyone. It's not for every platform. And as deep as I would desire to go in a conversation like that, even as you were speaking, I know what we're talking about today. The journalist in me had a lot of questions because as you started to think about the future immediately, as do I, right? So I started to
Right.
think about but you hit something that I want to, as I start to talk about, like as things were unraveling and what I was hearing on the other side. I'm always listening. Um, at what point did this become personal? Because based on what you said, it became personal.
It
Um,
did.
you heard the announcement. You got your invite to the call. You felt how you were feeling. Can you identify when you felt those feelings? Was it instant? Was there some lead time before those feelings set, or um, was it a culmination of that? And then as you leaned into the call a little bit, some of that started to subside. What was that like?
I think it was instant. And then as the call continued on, it began to subside and I began to be energized by the energy and the wisdom and the words that were being shared on the call, and really just the sheer number of growth and energy that got on the call. We were on the call until after 1 a.m. And so that started to energize me more, but that personal feeling was almost instant because I live in the South. I do electoral and policy work in Georgia, and I immediately thought of everything we went through just trying to get Stacey Abrams into the governor's office here. And so it was almost like an instant trigger response of I want to be happy in this moment. And also, I have done even state level organizing for trying to get a black woman in office. And you remember I think I slept for 2 months after that because to do all of that work and to lose and to have to grieve that still is a palpable feeling for me. And so I think it was an instant gut reaction for me because I was instantly triggered by the electoral organizing that I almost immediately thought of and considered. So I think for me, it was instantly personal, and a trigger response almost. And then as the call went on, it was still personal, but it energized me and reminded me, no, we really have the power to do this. And we can do this. If we can do this in one night in just a few hours, then what else can we accomplish?
I think this very powerful, and I think the take overall is something that people will be able to identify with. But you also sit in a very unique seat.
Yes.
And so, I'm curious on whether or not you had feelings, and then simultaneously, if you started to have feelings for people that you've served in this space, that won't mirror yours because they have not done the work that you've done. They have not
Right.
had some of the experience that you've had that really kind of accentuate how you feel
Right.
in moments like this. And if not, that's understandable as well. I'm just curious on that because the majority of the people that you end up reaching will be people that come to this with bits and pieces of information,
Yeah.
black
Yeah.
women or not.
I think that I've been trying to find the language for how I want to frame and broach conversations in this season of electoral mobilizing work. And it's honestly been difficult for me because of how I feel on certain policies. Now, at the end of the day, I have always said no matter what, I have to vote my conscience, I have to vote my ethics, I have to vote what I believe is in the best interest for me and those that I love and those that I don't even know. Um, and so I've been trying to find a language for that because so many people are upset about so many things, and so many people have become hopeless on voting. And I think that for me, my advice to anyone with any kind of experience, or if you're just, reading this or listening to this and want to know what can you do, or how can you make it through, how can we all make it through kind of those hopeless moments or conversations with people who have become hopeless, it would be find the entry point. My thing has been at this point, never Project 2025. It just cannot happen in the fullness in which they want it to happen because it's already occurring. I've heard a lot of people say Project 2025 is coming. If so and so gets into office, then he's going to immediately enact Project 2025. No, it's already here. It's already happening. And so I think we have to, and I said this on my live on TikTok last night, we have to keep the policies and the issues that are important to us, to our everyday lives, at the forefront. You know,
Absolutely.
do you have infrastructure issues in your community? There's a person who's responsible for that. And it's not the president most of the time. There are infrastructure projects that the presidential administration can provide funding for, but by and
Mhm.
large, your president doesn't have anything to do with the pothole that's
Your
outside of your
president
home.
doesn't have anything to do with your day to day. Despite
Not
what you see on the
not
news,
really.
what you're hollering about, Joe ain't did this, Joe bring the prices down. Joe didn't do any of it.
He didn't do any of that. And so I want people to understand exactly what you just said. It's not just the president that we are voting for. We are voting for one, all politics are local. They all start at the local level. And two, we are voting for the full administration. We are voting for judges. We are voting for congressional seats. We are voting for, and when I say voting for, not just the positions that we are directly voting for, but even the positions that we're voting for, some of those positions appoint other positions. And so we have to be mindful that whoever is running for president is, yes, they have a lot of power, but they are also the face of a whole administration and a whole other hierarchy of positions and things that actually impact our day to day. And
Which
so,
for some, that was
go
their
ahead.
issue with Barack Obama
And yes,
because they
and
wanted more. They wanted to see more for this.
and that's a whole other conversation that we can't even get into because that's a whole other story and article. But yes, I agree. So
Well,
what does it look like? We've talked about the call I was on. I know you joined the Win with Black Men call, and I definitely want to hear how that went. But how do we continue having conversations like this, to answer your question, of entry points for anyone who has different experiences or comes at this with different experiences? Is how do we continue to have discussions like this? Like, don't just let it be, we had a Win with Women call, now what? We had a Win with Black Men call, now what? I saw you send me a video yesterday about a Win with White Women call. Okay,
to
now
win
what?
with Latino women or
Win with
Latino
Latino women.
Latino women for Harris. I
Yep.
mean, so I'll say it this way, and I think that I think about years ago. I had my former producer and also one of my best friends, Jasmine Henley Brown, on a show, and she said some words that I think of often. I think of often.
Mhm.
Um, and we had a further discussion after she said it. But what she said was, black women are not everyone's mule.
Ooh.
And she said it with so much conviction, and it actually stopped me during the show. Say that again. And um and she cited some examples. And I think that sometimes I think I'm not a black woman, so I don't know. But I would assume with anyone in any situation where there is a group feeling or a mass feeling about something, everyone in that, sometimes people just stay in that feeling and they don't ever see anything else. And then there's people that get outside of it. I'm applying it to that situation because I'm not in it, but it could be with anything. And so hearing that, I remember responding to her and saying, I think that it's important for men to hear that,
Mhm.
not just men, because she was talking about being the mule for everybody, from
Right.
mammies back in the day to always showing up. Um, and I wanted her to know that there are men, because I can only speak for myself.
Mhm.
That makes me one of them that hear, understand, and are working towards that not being the case. Because it's a problem for us as well. It's a problem for us to see that. But if you don't
Right.
hear that, if you don't see that, if you don't even hear someone say that, me included, it's it you remain in that place because it feels like, especially when it's a mass feeling and then mass events happen and then mass data shows us that again, these were now my logic says if black women are the most educated,
Mhm.
there is a link to that.
Yes.
I'm not saying black women should stop getting educated, but there is a link to why that is there. And they also care about their own well-being, right? Which is that I believe that has to be at the forefront.
Right.
Um I was very not clear on what, like, when you told me about the call that you were joining, and then I started to hear it, then I started to see it. I was starting to wonder what was going on. I could not put my fingers on what was going on. There was so much going on. People were talking about, I got to stop what I'm doing and get on this call. I have to do this. I have to do this. And then I start seeing
Literally.
that what people were getting from that call, not the details of what was happening, but the type of mobilization that happened.
Right.
For
Yeah.
me, I was like, I love this because it sounds like somebody at Harris headquarters is listening.
Right.
I understand the call
Yes.
has been going on, but also for too long, the people have been asking for the people to listen to the people. Like, if you
Yes.
are an elected official, and that's the second people I was referencing, and you make your own decisions based on your stature and your profile and your persona, and you really don't give a damn about the people, I really hope that you lose this election. I hope if that's you,
Absolutely.
I hope you find your way out. I hope you find yourself at somebody's
Unemployed.
job that you have to clock into.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what I hope for you.
Yes.
You've been irresponsible and disrespectful in your role.
Yes.
So I hear the momentum. I'm like, this is great. I'm hearing the numbers, and then I hear the financial number, which is now I think is at 2 million that black women raised on that call. That was the latest number that I saw this morning.
Mhm.
Um, which
Which is a
phenomenal,
lot. Yeah.
phenomenal. That was the first 1.5 million was raised in 2 hours.
Yeah. Literally.
So it wasn't
Literally.
until about 1 o'clock the next day that I get a text message about Win with Black Men.
Mhm.
It was in a group text, so I ignored it because I really don't respond to anything like it's an emergency. Let
Right.
that be known to anyone that tries to text me. Nothing is an emergency.
Right.
Absolutely not. I mean, nothing. If it's
And
an
your 911
emergency,
is absolutely not my 911.
it's not. If it's an emergency, you need to use your minutes and call me.
Use your minutes is crazy.
I mean, because they're again, and and a newsletter I have coming out this week. I'll talk a little bit about the oversaturation and overstimulation. As an oversaturated and overstimulated society, it's very easy to miss things. If you get
Yes, it
alerts
is.
about everything and everything is breaking and everything is breaking and everything is breaking, see, nothing to me is breaking because that word now means normal. Like I'm not responding to
Unfortunately.
that. I'm just
Right.
not doing it. So my urgency for like I said, it just doesn't matter. And I know that I'm not the only me out there. And I take solid in that. Um, but an hour later, I got another text, same link. Now I can see a visual. So now I see something that's very Afrocentric. You win with black men, and my eyebrow went up again. Like the when I heard about the women's call, my eyebrow was raised. But when I heard
Right.
about the next call, I was like, wait a minute now. I thought they
Mhm.
were listening yesterday, but they are listening.
Yeah.
No, immediately the first feedback that I saw, because I didn't see any social chatter about it. That was also interesting about this one, at least not initially. So I just was receiving text messages, and then I got it from a Dominican black man.
Okay.
Um, which his interests align. So it wasn't a surprise.
Okay.
But the delineation is important
Right.
because again, as they put the black vote together, black is
Right.
very complex.
It is.
It's very complex. And I'm gonna tell you straight out, there are some black men that present as black that don't want to be a part because they don't, and we're not here to talk about that, but that's my reasoning for saying that. So
Oh, you're right.
I'm thinking to myself, I see the momentum. I'm like, okay, I need more information. And then I saw a flyer. There was a detractor on the flyer, but it didn't matter because I liked the purpose. And I think that to me is most important because when you see something that like you're not gonna like everything. And a key principle I learned about life is that you don't need to chew on everything, especially things that taste bad. But you
Right.
can also eat the meat and spit out the bones. And that is,
Absolutely.
what my when I saw it, I'm like, this detractor is not gonna stop me from seeing what this call is about.
Right.
Because I do believe that black men, and it's also important to state again, if you don't believe that, you've probably watched too much news.
Yeah. Wrong news.
And I mean, uh, we can take the last 40 years of elections. At most, Republicans usually walk away with about 12% of the black vote. I say to you again, black is not a monolith.
Right.
I can tell you probably which black people are in that 12%. Now, Trump's polling at about 19%, and they're saying that that's because of black men, but that is also inflated because just like I told you the story about the aunties, black men don't talk to the enemy.
Right.
Now, am I saying, well, a black man popped into your head because you want to counter what I just said right now? And that black man is what I was talking about in that 12%. Don't give me any justification. I don't want to hear your opinion on why he would not be in that 12%. He is.
Right. You're
No,
right.
he is. He is. Because
Whatever the enemy
I'm gonna
is
tell you something.
in him in his mind. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. No.
I'm just telling you that when it comes to black men, and we can also look at this statistically, because again, if you're watching the wrong news, when you get stats and data, it has to be per capita. There's
Right.
one demographic in the United States that if they stay married, that the father stays in the household the longest. One demographic. That would be
Okay.
black men.
Well, not
I'm just putting it
according
out there.
not
On
according
average,
to all of the
white men
propaganda,
leave the house, even if they're married, they leave the house by the child being by the age of 12.
not according to all of the propaganda I've been fed throughout my whole
Well,
life,
because
Alex.
that's what you hear, and then you
Right.
reinforce that. And I think where we get into our main issues in our community is because of our I see this tweet all the time because it's not a tweet that one person owns. And I'll say it
Mhm.
now. Y'all don't hate white supremacy enough for me.
Y'all do not. Y'all do not.
That doesn't mean you need to hate white people. You should hate them
No.
being supreme. You should hate them being them considering themselves something that they absolutely are not.
Yes.
But we
Yes.
love it. And our love for it sounds like this is why I don't do business with black people.
Ooh.
You're at risk of being in that 12%. Consider that the
Yeah.
next time you open your mouth to say that you sound like a white supremacist. because that's where that language came from. That language did not come from black people doing business with black people.
It did not.
That came from black people getting businesses, white people not being served to their level of satisfaction, them leaving and vocalizing, "This is why I don't," as if the reason
Mhm.
isn't because the person is black.
Mhm.
Don't ever say that again. And we're not talking about the detractors because we're talking about momentum. I ended up joining that call at 8 o'clock. And at 7:57, when I tried to join the link that was sent, the call was full.
Oh, wow. Did
There was
they
no
say
entry.
what the original capacity was?
The original capacity for that StreamYard was 20,000 people. It
Oh,
was at its
wow, and it was
highest level.
full.
It was full. No one else got
Wow,
in. At that
wow.
point, every other angle, YouTube, Facebook opened up. And I wrote down the final numbers this morning. Excuse my cheap ass paper. I got this is crazy because I could do much better. I've got plenty of notebooks and this it's crazy that this is not even that paper, but I've got paper all over the place. Alex, do better. The exact number, I because I wanted to get it right, and he repeated it so that I could. The number was like 53,864
Wow.
at the
That's
end
the
of the
total
night
number that was on the call.
on the call.
Wow.
1.3 million raised that night.
Wow. Wow.
Now, some great listen, listen. And so those final numbers, that was I think Michael Bryant shared that this morning on CNN. He's the former White House media director. Um, and in addition to him speaking, the call opened up with Pastor Jamal Bryant. Maryland Governor Wes Moore spoke for quite some time. The Lieutenant Governor of Michigan also spoke. Reverend William Barber joined and requested that black men give $500, and that was the first thing he got on the call and said. Hello,
Wow.
man. um, but I'll tell you that, like, as I took out my phone to sign back into my ActBlue account,
Mhm.
um, and gave my donation, and as black men continue to join, I grabbed my phone again. And that momentum speaks to the feeling of unity that happens when communities come together. The world
Right.
shakes when
Yeah.
black communities come together. And
Yes.
please note that that is going to instill much fear.
Absolutely.
That mobilization happened though because of black women, and I want to be clear on that.
Mhm.
And I don't think that black women should feel like uh this happened because black men wanted to show black women that they were not alone and that they would not be left out.
And we appreciate that
And I'm saying that
because
to reinforce that because we don't hear that enough.
we don't. We really, and I have seen the other thing that I thought was interesting was when I got back on my social media during the call and almost right after all of the endorsements started rolling in for VP Harris, all I saw was black women and black people, caregivers, therapists, different, people posting messages across different platforms saying, "Black women, we can do this, but we're going to be okay. We've got to give ourselves grace. We've got to be gentle with each other. We've got to be gentle with ourselves." And it was just my timelines were filled with affirmations and care for black women because it was like our community immediately knew what this meant and the target that was coming with it. But you said something earlier, let me not say but, and you said something earlier about um black women being the catalyst and everything else, and that Jasmine Henley Brown said we are not everyone's mule. That hit me because I am a womanist. And so for me, it means I look through things through the lens of black women. because of the belief that if Black women are exceeding and have everything that they need and we are provided for, then that means everyone else is good. If we can get pay equity, if we can get bodily autonomy, if we can get insert thing here
It means
equitably,
finally,
finally,
finally.
then we'll know we're on the right track for us to actually be pursuing and be successful in the pursuit of equity and justice for all. So that is my
Mm.
lens. And so I think that's another reason why it immediately was personal for me, is because of that lens.
I totally understand that, and I appreciate that uh circular perspective that gives you a full view of what we're working with here. What
Right.
you saw was a mobilization like none other,
Literally.
be- and you are surprised by it because they always tell you something else about us,
Yes.
and and we also start to internalize what they say.
And we should
And
not.
I be snapping at people, and it's never an intentional thing when I'm like, don't send me that. I don't stop it.
Right.
Because I truly believe that what your ears take in, what your eyes see, those things start to frame your thoughts before you think you're in control. You're not. You're
Right.
not. That's why, extremely conservative Christian households, you can't do it's so restrictive because and that's crazy because it's like they don't want you to be a person. They don't want you to learn or feel or see.
Right.
But it's more so about things that are detrimental to you that you should not see. You can be
Yes.
grown as you want to be.
Yes.
It's just some things that your black ass doesn't need to see.
Right.
I
I
already,
do
I
not
already,
need to
I
see
know it.
Tanya
I don't need
Matthews
to see it.
video.
I don't need.
I
I don't
do
need.
not need to see that.
I don't even need reinforcement.
Yeah,
What I
no.
also need is affirmation. I need positivity. I need people supporting me. I need to know that people are standing with me, not
Right.
people are just standing. And part of the reason that we talk about this often is that black people are the main people that have to always. They're the only people on the planet that have to think about living every day.
Every single day. Every single
And
day.
when you hear that for the first time, you probably need to take the rest of the day off
Yeah.
because you realize that when you started working, you had to think about that. Before you
Yes.
put on clothes and go outside, you have to think about what am I wearing? Am I a target? Do I look dangerous? Do I look like, oh, you know who doesn't think? Nobody else thinks about that. Even people that come here as immigrants don't come thinking about that. And I'm not saying that anybody should feel like that. I'm saying we
Right.
should not feel like that. But
Right.
what it reinforces that is bad info.
Yes. Absolutely.
Terrible. Um, Will Packer joined later in the call. At 45 minutes, the call men had given 650,000.
Wow.
We got the first update at 20 minutes in. It was 150,000. 30 minutes, 500,000.
Wow.
Um, and so Will Packer joined and said, "There's a bunch of people. If you're here, you're informed. You're informed because
Yeah.
somebody even called you in here." But there
Yes.
are thousands of men that are not here right now, and you need to text them like, bruh. And he just gave basically, who you need to text. This
Yeah.
is just as
So
not,
do it.
bruh. What like, bruh, this is what we doing. Text them and say, this is what we doing.
Right. Right
Bakari
now.
Sellers actually joined. Maxwell Frost, the youngest congressperson, who's also a black man. He joined Ben Crump. And I mean, just a number of people joined to show that solidarity. But you also saw people from different black communities, which is what I wanted to see. These were not
Mhm.
just every name. I may know the name because of what I do, but these are not names that everyone would know. But these are names that you would know if you live in Cleveland. These are
Yeah.
names that you would know if
Yeah.
you live in Philly. These are
Yes.
names that you would know if you live in St. Louis. These are names that you would know if you live in Detroit.
Right.
It was not about this name, that name, this name, that name. Anybody trying to do that was immediately shut down because this was really just about us
Mm.
and how we help Vice President Harris not just clinch this nomination, but restore the order to this country that is necessary. Like it's just necessary. So I was duly energized to see what happened on that call.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you
Um,
the same thing you asked me of how were you feeling before that call happened? At that point, you know, you had heard about the Win with Black Women call. So how were you feeling? Well, I guess two questions. How were you feeling before even the Win with Black Women call? How were you feeling just after it seemed like VP Harris was going to start getting more and more endorsements after Biden dropped out? How did you feel then? And then how did you feel before going into the Win with Black Men call?
I have severe issues with the way things play out in this country over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, and the requirements of black people to just take it. So
Yeah.
after Joe Biden's debate performance, I started an Airbnb. Um, it's not a playlist category. I guess a list, a travel list of that I called Blexit, BLEXIT, blacks exiting during the election.
Right.
I was scheduling my exit. I was going to vote early. I won't be here, and also scheduling my exit during the inauguration because my faith was not in this process. And also, you've got a faction of people. It's not half of the country, as they like to say, but a faction of people that are dead set on taking this country back to 1926.
Yes.
And then once they get there, they want to go back to 1826.
Yes.
I'm not doing that with any of them. I'm not
Heard.
even arguing with them about it. I'm
Right.
not I'm not I'm not doing it. Either we shut it down, we get together, we come together and we shut it down, or I'm out. And that's really where I was. I didn't have to publicize that. I told the people that I thought should know, you're
Yeah.
also invited. But also, I've been sitting behind a mic talking about this full-throated since at least 2008.
Minimum.
Since at least. I'm talking about the audio that I can pull at the moment. I probably further.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say minimum.
And so I said this to you before, and this is most important. I think to answer your question, my headspace was not, it was just flat. I didn't have a lot of emotion around it
Okay.
because I started to tune stuff out. I'm not making an emotional decision about the rest of my life or my next step in life. I'm not doing that. I'm not
Yeah.
doing that. But what I will also do is say that I have dedicated my life. I remember when I just kind of changed my life vision to like serve God and create for my people. That's literally what I said I wanted to do. That's how Alex
Literally.
Unmuted applied. I used another moniker before that. And so I've put effort into doing that. And even from my own community, if you don't know, you would know that. I could go work somewhere for some white people. And it's not about working for white people. It's just about creating what I want to create for my people. And I can't often do that in spaces that require me to create for a cookie cutter template.
Agreed.
Oh, words are wise today. So that
See.
that also though, um we built the infrastructure. If you're watching this, you're probably aware of Black Alerts, but our official launch was impacted by COVID-19, which is something we don't revisit often. But we had to really pivot in our strategy and our motive, and we transformed our news app into something that was tracking protests and bringing alerts about things that were happening on the ground in our communities. Also, things that you don't see in the polls. You don't see that in the news. You don't see Black news organizations in news. And if you don't watch news, the only news that you do watch, you turn on what you've been trained to watch.
Right.
But what I saw in this moment, like I said, part of my issue was like can't do it alone.
Yeah.
But when I saw the mobilization, I no longer felt alone.
Mm.
I felt like I saw light. You know how you see, like most people see, like they talk about lights at the end of a tunnel, or you
Mhm.
see headlights coming through a tunnel. No, I saw what I thought was a one-eyed Willie car coming with the front headlight out, coming down this damn tunnel.
Did you say a one-eyed Willie?
I knew somebody in college that we called that. It was there. It was that front headlight was busted. Uh, with no intent to get it fixed. And you know how those hoopties used to look. I think it was a Grand Am or a Grand
Not
Prix.
a Grand Dam.
It was a one-eyed Willie. And so that was like, I'm
Jesus.
like, oh, the hoopty is on its way. But that's how we gotta. But then we turned on the other light, and I realized in the tunnel, oh shit, we got an excursion. Oh,
Mm.
we are blasting through this tunnel. This is
Yeah.
full speed. I'm blind, so I wasn't shocked that I thought it was a one-eyed Willie. But but there's an excursion on the way.
Right.
A big black excursion full of black people.
Right.
Nothing excites me more. I mean, I got my own, you now black people, we got our own, we do our own thing. There's
Right.
some of you, I have some other things that we need to talk about. But we don't
Oh,
air
that's
family
for
business
sure.
like they do. We don't do that.
We
We're
don't.
not
We
doing
don't.
that.
Mm-mm.
That's also a thing that I want us to consider in this election. You were seeing things that other people don't see. If you
Right.
don't, and again, you've been taught to numb your blackness, subside your blackness in your code switching, whatever it is. Hi Angela, good morning. How are you? Like, no, you can. This is
Ooh.
not. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Please
Right.
don't do that. And I want people to be encouraged in this moment because I am encouraging you to brighten your light, not dim it.
Yes. Or as
Brighten
my
it.
best friend Erica Vincent said to me recently, take up space. Take up space.
One of my
Please.
favorite. I've been watching it every morning. I probably will watch it every morning until then. And it is because there are certain sounds that activate us as a people. There are certain sounds that just do that.
Right.
Um, certain music. Halftime by the Yin Yang Twins. You already know it's about to go down. Whether you're at a cookout, a
Yes.
barbecue, or the club.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
Like, come on now. Come on
I know
now.
what time it is. Stand up and get crunk. Like it's happening. It's happening. Yes. I agree. I think it was a rallying cry this week to between all of the calls that have happened. I heard about an LGBTQ and queer persons for Kamala call that was happening. I think this week was a rallying cry for no, not perfection, but for an option that seems to galvanize at least many of those who um, didn't want Biden to be the next presidential nominee. Now, I know folks who still don't necessarily want Kamala, and they are for various reasons, whether it be the Israel Gaza war, the genocide that's happening in Gaza right now, or if it's other foreign policies or climate policies or infrastructure policies or immigration policies or whatnot. They are saying, I'm not giving my vote, my support, or anything behind anyone without certain promises or expectations. And I get that. And I agree with that to an
Mhm.
extent of we also have to I'm not looking for a perfect politician. That just doesn't exist. I am looking for the politician, whether it's the president to my county commissioner. I am looking for the people to be elected who are willing to, like you said earlier, be the people for the people. I want that. I don't care if you are red, blue, green, yellow, purple. I want the people, a aka the elected and appointed officials, to be for the people, aka my black ass, who is just trying to make sure that I can pay my bills every month when they want the whole thing and not a partial
I
payment.
want the American dream since you said that's a thing.
Since you said that's a
To hell
thing
with
that
just
we're
paying
all
my
supposed
bills
to
and
have.
surviving. I can go survive anywhere. I don't
Yes,
want that.
I want to thrive. I am my people, our community
I'm
has
in debt
been
because you said I was supposed to be.
surviving. Yes, yes. And you're not doing anything to help me get out of that. So again, I
no.
don't care if you're red, blue, green, purple, or yellow. I want us to stop using billions of dollars to fund genocide and war criminals and use some of that money here for the infrastructure that we need to improve, for the water systems that need to be redone because folks don't have clean waters in certain rural and some urban communities. I want us to work on our connectivity infrastructure and not think that just giving someone 2.5 meg down in a rural community means that, oh, they have quality internet access now. No, that is downloading an email. Like, let's really focus on the issues. And that's not me saying that we don't need to help other people in the world. That is me saying that let's, I don't know, not destabilize nations instead of taking care of the people here. Like, we have to collectively work for our collective good because we're all running out of time, truth be told, um, for various reasons. One, life is short. Two, cancer is kicking our asses, all of us. And the demographic for those getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer, is skewing younger by the day. So, cancer is taking us out. These other illnesses are taking us out. Capitalism is taking us out. Climate change is taking us out. Folks died from heat stroke making annual religious pilgrimages this year. Heat stroke. So we are literally running out of time for all of us to be bickering about. I'm going to keep using the same words as the woman that I reposted on my TikTok. We're too busy. We have too many collective concerns for us to be bickering about who's using what bathroom. I was just in New York with you recently and went to a unisex bathroom and didn't feel any ways about it. It was men, women, LGBTQ, everybody was in the same
You have
bathroom.
a unisex bathroom at home. People,
Like,
chill.
chill. Like, it's not
Chill.
that deep. It's just not that deep. We all went in, we handled our business, and we walked out. Like, what do
When you
y'all
find a
think
way
is
for people to
happening
stop
in the
peeing, let
bathroom?
me know. Yeah, when you find a way for people to stop peeing, let me know.
Let me know. So like I feel like we're too busy. We have too many other important concerns that we should be worried about and talking about to be bickering about that. So I think overall what I'm gathering from both of the calls that we were on, there may have been technical difficulties and it may not have been perfect, but we needed those galvanizing moments and we need to continue to have them throughout this season because they are going to try to wear us down. And so in the face of them trying to wear us down, I want to make
And they
sure
love to
we
do
can,
I mean,
they love
they
to do
will do
that.
it.
Yes. I want to make sure we continue to have moments like that so that we can go ahead and do that. So I hope that we continue to have these conversations. I know you and I will continue to have these
We will,
conversations.
definitely. This is the
Um,
beginning, but you
yes,
need to be aware of this momentum. If you're
yes,
not engaged, we'll put out some resources for you to engage because it's important that you do.
absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for having this conversation with me.
Oh, thank you for joining me, as always.
As always,
We'll do it again soon.
yes.